Katikala here for most likely part 8 on my Asexuality film series. And I've been just switching and waffling how am I gonna do this video, so I'm just going to start talking. So this video's topic is that person. See my shirt. It's a 2023 movie, directed by Susanna Vogel, written by Michelle Ashford, based on the short story by Kristen Rupinian from 2017. It was published in the New Yorker. And I wish I could just get into it and talk about the asexuality scene in the movie, which I will spoiler alert. It's great. I think it's the best scene in the movie. But instead, I have to go through the backstory of the story because the backstory is why I didn't really know if I wanted to make this video, if I wanted to watch the movie at all. So basically, I did not hear about Kristen Rupinian's story in 2017 because I was not on Twitter. I'm still not on Twitter, not really. But what I did read in 2021 is an article on Slate by Alex Nowitzki, who made the point that she realized immediately when she read it, when the story was published in December of 2017. A lot of people who she knew kept sending her this story called Cat Person. Like, is this you? Is this you and Charlie? Anytime I'm using Charlie or Robert or Margot, assume I'm using quotations because those are the fictional names. So basically, what had happened is Rupinian had met Charlie, the real life person, still a pseudonym, that Alex Nowitzki had dated. Like, they met, maybe they tried to date, I don't know what happened. But somehow Rupinian knew Charlie, and she also found out that some years before he had dated someone significantly younger, Nowitzki, and then Rupinian looked Nowitzki up online and found a bunch of biographical information about her, like where she was working, what's her hometown, where she and Charlie went on our first date. And also it was very clear that she was talking about Charlie because she talked about his appearance and his behavior in a very specific way. And then she gave us that info. She put that information in the story and then didn't take it out. So immediately when people who knew Nowitzki and Charles, they could, like, is this about you? But Nowitzki had no idea who Kristen Rupinian was. So it took her years to find out that Rupinian and Charles had known each other in some way. She found out this after Charlie died in 2018. And then later she was inspired because they started making this movie. She wrote the article in Slate where she details her own reaction to the story and finding out that it was about her because she did eventually contact Rupinian and I did kind of base them on you, except for the pivotal scenes, like she took this idea that a college student dates a man who is 15 years older, and what that can mean, and like age gaps can be very complicated situations. And so I lost my train of thought. So basically she did kind of take inspiration of her and Charlie's story, but like Charlie and Nowitzki dated for a couple of years, so it's not the same situation. But like it's still really creepy and uncomfortable and iffy the way she mixed fact and fiction, because like all the other, like the Me Too stuff in the story, the like bad date, bad sex scene, the text unhinged texting that ends with her with the character of Robert calling Margot the character a whore, like that didn't happen. So like she basically Rupinian seemingly took a relationship that she knew about, she knew some details, and then just added all these iffy stuff in there, which is very uncomfortable, and that's why I had no interest in reading the story. And other thing about why I didn't want to watch the movie is like I saw Susanna Vogel's previous film, The Spy Who Dumped Me, and it just did not work for me on multiple levels, so I don't know if I wanna. And so the fact that the next movie is something that like I didn't like her first movie that I saw, and then the second has a iffy subject matter, so but I did watch it because I did read a review of it, the book of the movie on AV Club, and the reviewer made the point that there's some odd changes between the movie and this short story, and one of them that is in the short story, Margot goes home and hangs out with an ex, and that ex comes out as non-binary. And in the movie, the ex doesn't come out as non-binary, but instead it comes out as asexual. So I was intrigued about that choice, and like, so like personally, I never somewhat as a non-binary person. Like my gender is somewhat of a girl, somewhat of a void, so I'm kind of agender, demi-girl, somewhere like that. And as it would have been, like basically I didn't, like it's not great that non-binary representation was erased, but I'm not sure whether or not that's a good thing or not. I don't know how the non-binary representation was in the story, but I can thematically understand why the change was made, because like when it comes, because like the movie, the whole point of the movie is about basically women who date men and men who date women, and all the societal stuff that comes into it. Like there's all these the rules, like how much you can text someone and all that stuff. So it's very specific about that. So basically, having Margot have an ex who is not a man doesn't thematically add anything, and I hate talking about it like this. Like it sucks when representation gets erased like that, and like the Clay could have still been non-binary. Like you could have had him be a whole trifecta. So anyway, now finally 8.5 minutes into this video, I'm gonna finally get to the asexuality part. Like I said, the asexual character, the ex, is called Clay. He's played by Isaac Powell, and he's really great. Like I wish everything around this scene in the movie and the thematic things that the asexual adds to it wouldn't be so messy. Because like I just really loved Clay, and I loved Isaac Powell's performance. It's not a long scene. I think it is probably 3, 4, something like that. So basically, Margot goes home for some kind of break. Her stepfather is having a birthday party, and her ex Clay is also there, and they are hanging out. They had a amicable, a friendly breakup. So they're hanging out, and Robert is texting Margot a lot. So she's like sometimes answering, and he's like, "Oh, who is this?" And she talks about how she likes likes Robert, even though they haven't been on a proper date yet. And so he's like, oh, that's cool, but I'm protective of you. Like if he hurts you, he has to come through me, stuff like that. So that's like really nice friendship scene. And then she, oh, so how about you? Anyone special? Any guys? And I thought, oh, right. When we broke up, I was exploring having sex with men. I like the phrasing. And then he goes, oh, but actually I'm ace. It's what asexual call themselves. And then he explains that when they were having sex, like, which Margot knew that he was very out of it and he didn't really enjoy it. So he just wondered, like, okay, maybe I don't like sex with women, maybe I like sex with men. But that was even weirder because all the male beauty standards and stuff like that in the gay male community, and like she describes that like they wanted to maybe like a sexual sexual Tarzan and stuff like that. So it was even worse. And then I just looked it up, and realized that asexuality is a real thing, and that's what I am, and I am so happy. I don't have to care about having sex anymore. I don't have to pretend to care about sex anymore. So what I really liked about this performance, because that Isaac Powell has this really, he expresses this real asexual joy anytime he mentions being asexual and talking about it and figuring it out. And so like, even though after that he's like, oh, like, you know, it wasn't about you, like you could be the hottest girl ever, and I'm not saying you're not the hottest girl, but you know, it's about me. And so like, I get it. And so like from Clay's perspective, it was a very positive experience. And I like that if someone just clips that scene, I could watch it over and over again. But then there's Margot, and like, so Margot didn't realize what ace means in this context, and I guess she also didn't really know about asexuality, but she was like encouraging and like listened what he had to say and all that, but she was also shown as being very contemplating about it all. And she and then later, after that scene is over, we got to her in her teenage bedroom. I say teenage because like, I mean, she's 20, she's barely not a teenager herself. I mean, my 30s, I can say that. So basically she's shown as being this very contemplative about all that. But then she goes back home, back to school, and she and Robert finally have their first date. And then the movie kinda little turns into Pop Culture Detectives video essay, predatory romance in Harrison Ford movies. Like, yeah, like Robert thinks that Empire Strikes Back is a romantic movie, specifically the Han Leia kiss. And Margaret doesn't agree, and that's something to be talked about. And then Margot talks about that with her friend or whatever. So it's kind of a bit weird. But so anyway, Robert and Margot kiss. It's a bad kiss. Robert's not good at it. And then Margot is like, okay, so I'm more experienced than he is. I can use this. Like this, I have something over him. And I'm like, oh, he will be so grateful if I have sex with him. Like, I'm pretty sure that she specifically used, oh, he's gonna be so grateful. Which is a really weird way to frame that. So yeah, she goes home with Robert, and she's constantly wishy-washy and like, am I gonna go through it? Do I want to do this? Am I gonna do it because I feel obligated? Can I say no? Like all these discussions that I'm sure people who have sex go through when they get into this kind of situation. And like, she's talking to herself, like she's like, imagine another version of herself who is talking through this all. And then there's a really long, really awkward, bad sex scene. Like the sex is bad and the scene is very long and uncomfortable. And then once it's over, Robert is like talking about his experience of when she was away. Like, oh, I was so jealous. Like, I didn't know how much I should text you because there are all these rules. And then I I was sure you have some hot ex in your hometown and you were fucking him if I was like sending texts and I just really didn't know where we were going and if it is gonna work out and all the stuff like. And then she's like, my ex is asexual, as in he's not gonna have sex with anyone ever again. I said, oh, well, good. And what I think it's important to note that it's specifically Clay's experience of asexuality is like that. Or like it's specifically referring to Clay as an asexual. Clay is an asexual who will not have sex again and he's happy about it. And it's not necessarily every ace is like that, although because this is the only ace that we see or meet, then. But again, I like Clay and I like that scene, and I do think it's very clear that Margot is specifically referring to Clay, that Clay is not a competition with Robert, because like Clay is never gonna have sex with her again. And I do think it's interesting that, sorry for that for that silence. I think it's interesting. Like I can see this choice to make him be asexual, but I do think it's also especially interesting that he's not just, okay, I was straight, we broke up, oh, by the way, I'm asexual. It's specifically, okay, we are breaking up because I'm not straight, that must mean I'm gay. Okay, I'm not gay, what else is there? Oh, I'm asexual. Without using the SAM, the split attraction model, so we don't know who is attracted to romantically wise. So I think that was an interesting adage. Like it's like basically in some ways Clay is like rejecting Margot like twice, both as first as because he thinks he's gay and now because he's asexual, and like we don't really get how truly Margot feels about that, about like he's supportive, it's a positive things for Clay, but was it positive for her? And then considering she immediately goes back home, it's like, oh, I need to sleep with Robert even though I don't really want to, and then I'm basically disassociating during the sex, and also like he's gonna be so great, he hasn't had sex a lot, so he must be grateful if I have sex with him. And it's like this, so like it's the messiness of the movie and the short story it's based on, I'm sure. And I just do. I was thinking about whether or not to rewatch it. I watched it. Was it April? I should have checked, but I watched not that long ago, and again, I feel iffy about why I haven't watched it once in a way that, like, royalties are important, so I don't really like watching stuff that doesn't support the creatives. But I'm not sure if I want to support the creatives in this one. Like it's complicated, so I didn't rewatch it. But I think the addition of asexuality into the story adds an interesting point, an interesting thematic point that you could think like, Margot, it doesn't seem like Margot really accepts the fact that she can say no forever, always. Like she does seem to have some, or herself seems to have some issues with around in sex. But I don't know, is it, but like it's a messy movie, and I don't quite know what point it's trying to make, and I don't know if they thought that deeply about making the character asexual and specifically giving the asexual character a real actual queer journey, that it's not just from straight to asexual, it's straight to gay, and okay, this isn't working for me either, I'm asexual. I'm not sure. I don't know what to say about this because this is a missing movie, but the asexual scene works for me, and I think it does add something to it to show that okay, you don't have to have sex with someone just because they would be grateful about it. You don't have to have sex if you don't want to. Although you get into gender issues that like, okay, do men have a more of a chance to say no than women? I don't know. The actual asexual scene is great. Isaac Powell is great. I love Clay. I wish the movie surrounding Clay wouldn't be so messy, and that the backstory wasn't so weird. And I have to get back to it a bit. Like, as far as I can tell, the X coming out as whatever is not, at least in the article I read by Alex Novichky, she didn't mention that that was a real thing. So that's one of, so it doesn't seem to be a case that a person came as non-binary to the X, and then someone wrote a story about it, and then someone made a movie about it and changed that coming out experience to one of asexual. So yay, at least I couldn't see that that is a case, that she took lots of, she didn't like it's still a fictional story, but it based a bit too much on real people in a way that affected those real people in adverse ways. So this was long. Way too long. So, to the next time. Bye.